Hi guys, welcome to today's lesson. So we're carrying on with this portrait study in Procreate on an iPad using an Apple Pencil, and we're trying to create a sort of charcoal pencil drawing effect, but more charcoal I suppose with a smudginess. And today we're going to be selectively rendering some elements of the background and more specifically rendering more of the features, more of the face. So we can get straight into it. Primarily the tools we were using were sketching tools, so Procreate Pencil and Peppermint. So I'll go back to Procreate Pencil because I'm going to be getting straight into the features again today, which is sort of where we left off. So we're going to be doing a mixture of kind of rendering in the shadows a little bit and also starting to develop the halftones. So I maybe want to get a little bit more of that little corner of shadow that's quite dark wedged in next to the nose. But I also want to pull it across a little bit. Now I'm going to use a Procreate pencil as my eraser as well. And as I said last week, what I tend to do is I don't really use undo that much when I'm drawing with a tablet. What I like to actually do is treat it a little bit more like I'm using traditional media. It's a good way to kind of create texture that I think looks a bit more like traditional media, because you get these kind of like overlaying forms and shapes which build up a bit more complexly. And it's also good for when you actually, like, if you're an artist who also works with pencil or you want to kind of move from digital to working with traditional media, you get your head out of that idea that you can sort of just undo stuff when you get it wrong. And it really makes you think, I think makes you think a lot about the choices that you're making, which is always really good. So you don't get too complacent with how you're sketching. So it's a little bit better for that little form in next to the nose. So I'm going to start blocking out some more of the shapes. So adding, this is erasing, flicking back and forth between. If you want to kind of follow whether I'm adding or removing tones, you can just look at whether the eraser or the pencil is highlighted above or at the top of the screen. So I'm sort of chunking in more forms within the nose basically at the moment. So they're not necessarily going to be super refined, but I'm getting them in place. Because what we had at the beginning of this session is an approximate face, and we want to get more specific. That's what we're doing. So I want to pull the bottom of the lip up a little bit, give them a slightly more sort of pursed lip, bottom lip. Which also creates a little bit more space to just kind of push up the chin shape too. And I feel like there wasn't quite enough space for that chin. So definitely making those changes improves the likeness, which is good. Apologies for my cat meowing in the background there. Just going to lock my screen. And I'm also going to darkening the forehead a little bit there. Just catching a little bit more light on top of these lids. And we'll do the same for the top of the cheek and the back here. A little bit more light. So you see it feels a bit more symmetrical, that form. So I'm going to swap to the peppermint and kind of use it on its side. I want to get a little bit more kind of like smudgy tones, so a little bit less scratchy than the Procreate pencil, which is good for detail, but not quite so good for general textures. So we're just going to do a little bit. I've got it on a pretty transparent setting, this peppermint. You can see it's just sort of smudgily working away at some of these tones. I can swap it into the darker brush as well, and sort of just see doing sort of sweeping little passes. So it's just adding a little bit more detail into the clothing. I'll do a little bit down on his jacket as well. So I'm just kind of looking at edges here really, where I can maybe make some edges sharper. It's maybe a little bit too much. But yeah, just trying to add a little bit more sense of detail into the clothing before we end for today. So you could keep pushing something like this as long as you like. We'll probably jump to a different subject next week because this is kind of like a nice spot to end. I didn't want to go like over the top, like tons of detail, because we want to try to maintain this loose feel. But yeah, definitely. So like one thing we'd want to do is maybe just neaten up, or maybe go a little bit more specific just with the edge of the face. And just because we can, just pop out a few, so make a very small brush and just kind of get a few of the finer little beard hairs erased here where we're overlapping. A little bit heavy there, just a bit too heavy. Oh, that's why. Swap tools, so I'm just going to go back to my sketching tool. And just get final little kind of darkest notes here and there, which is what we do with the drawing as well. Let's go a little bit darker in with the collar here, maybe connecting down a little bit below. Maybe just pop the cheek out against the background a little bit more, so I'm just erasing that a tiny bit. Just going to make the back edge of the nose, even though it's a little bit darker than the highlight, just pop out a little bit more against the cheek. And yeah, that's not too bad as a fairly quick little sketch. So that's maybe, in total about probably an hour-ish, maybe a bit less than an hour sketching time. I'll maybe just going to pull the back edge of this out a little bit, just show a little bit more of his face. It feels like it's crowded in a little bit too much, but I'll do that fairly loosely. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. So we'll be doing another one in future weeks, but that kind of gives you a general idea of the approach. It's not a perfect likeness, but it's a fairly quick sketch. It's a really good way, as I say, just to practice these sorts of skills, mess around with tools, and not have to go through loads of paper and charcoal and pencil and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's it for this week. I'll be back next week with a different piece that we'll be working on. As always, you can, if you want to keep up to date with videos from myself and other tutors and students, you can subscribe to the channel. And if you want to see the sorts of paid qualifications we offer, you can click the link through in the description to the school and see what's there. So I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.